Spring is in the air at Global Voice Broadcasting. Fresh new shows are hitting the airwaves every day. Shows about all the things that matter to you in your life. Music, fashion, celebs, and more. It's all here, and it's getting better every day. Only at Global Voice Broadcasting.
I highly recommend Ms. Hicks. Her books, her CDs are encouraging.
I bought her book, A Hill to Climb. She's a very inspirational speaker.
And I look forward to one day being able to work with her.
Your power lies within you. Let it loose.
Aspiration, inspiration, motivation, edification, determination. These are the keys of life success brought to you by none other than award-winning author, motivational lecturer, business consultant, and much more as she gets you aimed to your purpose. And now, ladies and gentlemen, young and elder, from Hollywood to the entire world, here is your host of Aim to Purpose, the radio show, Louise Hicks, along with her co-host, yours truly, Kennon Wesley Mason.
Hello world, how is everybody? We are so happy to have you join us today, and we missed you all. Hope you missed us as much as we missed you.
Yes,
and we have a great show for you today. We will be Skyping in and speaking with Arquila Todd. And our topic today is one that is really kind of long overdue. We should have done something like this sooner because we have a lot of problems in the workplace, a lot of conflicts. So we're going to talk to you today about diversity in the workplace, embracing cultural differences. And I'm Louise Hicks, along with my co-host.
Yes, I am your co-host, Kennon Mason, and I want to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone listening and watching from all over the world as we bring you Aim to Purpose, the radio show right here at Global Voice Broadcasting, and you can chime in at any time. Call in with your comments and questions at 1-323-522-5482 from anywhere around the world. 1-323-522-5482. And since we're going into this particular topic about diversity in the workplace, I have an article here that I just want to share. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary coming up next week, is
Yes,
it?
we are.
Yes.
We started our broadcast live from Global Voice Broadcasting Network here in Hollywood, California. And as Kennon said, we are global. We started July 7th, 2014. So next week, we will begin our 1-year anniversary.
We're going to celebrate the whole month of
Yes,
July.
we are. And we have a great guest lineup for you, too. And we'll be coming to you with all of these great guests. We have some great topics. We have some controversial topics. So just stay tuned because, and call us. Call in.
Absolutely.
Join the conversation.
That's right. And with that, I want to start with this particular article here. This is from It's from .cron.com, and it's top 10 diversity issues at work by Michelle Renee. A common misconception is that the phrase, quote, workplace diversity, end quote, defines meeting certain quotas in employee, race, or gender categories. In fact, diversity as it relates to human resources is a way of thinking and operating that encourages an entirely new and positive outlook among coworkers. Diversity in the work environment promotes acceptance, respect, and teamwork. Companies that overcome certain diversity issues often achieve greater productivity, profit, and company morale. And just to name these top 10, I won't go into great detail on all of them, but I will name the top 10, and they're in no specific order. The first is respect in the workplace. You want to have an environment where everyone is in total togetherness,
So a harmony
with
because
each other.
That's what brings about a harmonious workplace environment and leaves out the conflict.
That's right. And the next one, as you said, the next one is conflict. Conflict actually is the entire. It defeats the purpose of being in the workplace or creating a successful work environment.
Yes, it does.
The next is lifestyle acceptance. And I do want to read this one. Though one's personal life should typically not affect their job performance, lifestyle acceptance is sometimes an issue in the workplace. Unfortunately, even though many employers now provide extended benefits to, quote, alternative lifestyle partners, end quote, sometimes gay and lesbian workers experience disrespect and discrimination from coworkers. Such behavior leads to an uncomfortable working atmosphere and poor productivity. The next is ethnic and cultural differences, which is a part of what our topic is today. Sadly, some individuals harbor unfair prejudices against people in different colors, cultures, ethnicity, or religion than their own. Some prejudice should not be tolerated in the workplace, much less anywhere, and should be dealt with in a firm and prompt manner. Firm company policies and appropriate training help build acceptance and respect among a well-diversified employee body. And to run out the last few, another diversity issue at work is gender. Another is harassment in the workplace. Another is communication. Another is disabilities, generation gaps, and consistency. And so with that, it just goes to show you that having a working environment that you want to be in harmony, as my mom said, these particular subject matters always seem to come into play, and I'm sure Arquila Todd will chime in on some of those, along with some of her own.
I think she's going to chime in on pretty much all that you've spoken about, because a lot of people are under the understanding that diversity in the workplace is all about having a certain ethnicity, statistic, and so forth. But that's not what makes up diversity in the workplace, as Kennon so eloquently explained there. And as we move into our guest today, she's going to share a lot because she's written a dynamic book. So that's great, because with all the things that are going on now in the world, we do need to bring about harmony.
And being that we live in this age of technology, we really shouldn't even be having these kind of conversations still in this day and era. But obviously we do. And we are going to bring that discussion right here to Aim to Purpose, the radio show.
And that's what we're all about, helping people to get a better understanding on cultural differences. And in view, we'd also like to, since our last broadcast, because we were out last week, we had the shooting there in Charleston, South Carolina. And our thoughts and prayers do go out to the families of all of those who were murdered in the church there in South Carolina. And it was such a horrific act of hate. And our show is about bringing universal harmony to the world for the betterment of not only mankind, but for the sustainability of the planet.
That's right.
We have to have that. And unless we do, we all will perish together, because we are all are one here on this planet as human beings, and we need to start acting like that. The animals treat each other better than we do, and that's sad.
That's right. The planet is full of diversity, and it's just what it is. We all have different cultures and ethnic backgrounds and things that we believe in, but when it comes to the bottom line, I believe that everyone wants to be in some form of harmonious living, whether that's especially with cultural differences, which is what we're going to talk about
we're gonna talk
with
about
with Arquila Todd, diversity in the workplace, embracing cultural differences.
And we are going to go ahead and talk about, we'll give you an intro of our special featured guest who will be in from Texas. She's Skyping in from Texas.
You want us to go to a break first, or you want to just kind of go into...
Well, we can just go into and share, and then we'll do a break later. We'll do a break later.
Okay, well, Arquila A. Todd, a graduate of Auburn University, an air traffic controller for 23 years, and a mentor with Big Brothers Big Sister for 18 years. Arquila's passion is for ministry. Her 3 books, My Testimony, How God Used the Pain of My Dating Relationship to Get My Attention and Had Me Return to Him, The Brainwashing of Black America, How God Helped Me Overcome, and Date Smart, Practical Biblical Dating Lessons for all the single ladies, attest to her care and concern for her community. Her mission is to educate and protect. For wisdom rebuffs a mighty and vicious predator determined to plunder one of his or her treasures and to ravish and enslave. Her writings teach men to take a stand for the protection and stability of the family. Her purpose is to turn false hope for a successful relationship from a lack of training and knowledge into successful unions. Arquila hopes to prove that each individual can succeed in relationships with the right study. Her teachings, based on the Word of God, establish confidence, good judgment, and honorable behavior. Arquila's consults, speaks for workshops, conferences, mediates disagreements, and assists in establishing resources for singles ministries. So let's give a warm, aim to purpose welcome to our special guest for this edition, Arquila A. Todd.
Arquila.
Yes.
Are you? Hello. How are you?
Hello, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity to come and share with you, Louise. We have known each other for quite some time.
Yes, we have.
And I just congratulate you with this aim to purpose, what you're doing for the community, yourself, and coming up on your 1-year anniversary. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. And
now, how do you pronounce your name, please?
It is Arquila, like peculiar, Arquila.
Arquila, okay, perfect.
Arquila.
Perfect.
Okay, Arquila. And yeah, we have known each other for some time. I met Arquila out in Texas, where she is talking to us from her hometown today. And it's really a pleasure to have you here, Arquila. And I've read your book. I mean, it's amazing what you have written and how you have truly been inspired by God to write this book, which is really important today on us and how we the lack of embracing one another today. And I want to show this book. The conversation is stemming from this book. Let me get it in focus here.
There you go.
Which is,
go ahead and back it up a little bit.
Let me back up just a little bit here. The Brainwashing of Black America, How God Helped Me Overcome. And a lot of us are brainwashed. And I know that it's not being disrespectful or anything toward anyone. The bottom line is a lot of us are brainwashed, and what we want to do and what our attempt is here on our show, Aim to Purpose, my son Kennon and I, is to bring awareness to everyone, not just us as Black people, but everyone, in order to help each of us bridge this cultural gap and help us to have a better understanding of how we are connected and to have a more harmonious relationships with each other. So let's go ahead and talk to you, Arquila, about some of the things that you've written and how amazing you have put this book together and shared so much insight. And I know you are an air traffic controller, and I believe you've been one for about 23 years. Is that correct?
That is correct, Louise. I've been an air traffic controller for 24 years, and the point of writing the book is just to talk about what we're talking about tonight, how I walked into that job and the experiences that I experienced. And yes, in the write-up and the job description, it talks about diversity and respecting each other. That is our plans and our purpose. But guess what? That doesn't always happen. A person may not treat you fairly, even though they've been trained, even though they know the word diversity. Respect, as we were talking about it earlier, Kennon, he mentioned respect, and everyone wants to be respected. But I, as he was reading those details, thought to myself that respect is how you allow a person to deal with you, how you allow them to handle you, how you respond to them.
That's right.
It always starts with the individual. And I had written out 6 points I wanted to share with your audience tonight, and we can get to them as you deem necessary. But I just wanted to point that out. Respect. How do you deal with a person, and how do you allow them to deal with you?
That's right.
Yes.
And respect, and actually respect goes into your first key point here about knowing your worth. When you know your worth, that gains respect on its own, because you're allowing that vibration you're allowing other people to feel that, hey, I'm here. I know what to do in this workplace. I know my position. I know what it entails, and that will command the respect from others, along with your, of course, demeanor and character and other characteristics. And so, respect is definitely one of those things that can be more deeply defined as what you're going into.
Yeah, and how do you command that, knowing your worth and your value? What is your assessment of that, Arquila, and how do you command that on the job? I know you have been on there for 24 years now. So how does that work?
That is an excellent question, and my first point, to know your worth, because it's hard for an individual to ask their coworkers to know their value and worth if the individual herself, doesn't initially know their worth or value. And my book, yes, that you mentioned, The Brainwashing of Black America, How God Helped Me Overcome, is steeped in scriptural and biblical principles. The scripture that says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am made in God's image and likeness. And I am made perfect, because God, the Creator, makes all things perfect. So with that scriptural, biblical foundation on which to stand, it gives me a solid foundation of personal value and worth. With that, I am able to work at my job in a sense of excellence. It allows an individual to have God's seal of approval, which brings confidence. That seal of approval brings courage and authority, so that when you face things at work, disrespect, unrighteous treatment, you don't shrink back. You stand up for yourself and say, that is not right. Because often, if you let that irritating behavior, that unrighteous behavior continue, it gets worse.
That's right.
And you're right.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
It gets worse. And so to know your value says, I know and I'm okay with my individuality. I'm okay and I know my uniqueness. And my style is acceptable to God, and that's what matters to me. It's acceptable by my job standards and by God's standards, and I am proud of who I am, and that gives you the freedom and the essence to be you, to be an individual, which is so powerful.
It is.
Your hair, if your hair is nappy and you're okay with it, hey, I'm okay with who I am. If I have a gap in my teeth, if I like my meat well done, guess what? If I'm okay with it, that's what matters first.
That's right.
You're right. It's about your individuality. As long as you aren't hurting other people, that's my philosophy. You have the freedom and the right to do what meets your needs. Because if you're always trying to make someone else comfortable and making yourself uncomfortable, that is not meeting your needs, and you're going out of character for someone else, and you're losing your freedom. And as you said, you're not honoring who you are. And as long as you know who you are and you're honoring yourself, and I know there has been a lot of problems within the FAA, the Federal Aviation Association. I hope that's what it stands for. But because years ago, I recall there was lawsuits, many in the air traffic controller's position, because blacks were pretty much kept out of this field of work. So do you think that has anything to do with a lot of the conflict? Because I know you've had a lot of conflict in your job based on my reading the book, and you give clear-cut situations that you've had to mitigate these situations here. So what do you think has created all of this workplace conflict in your particular job, the air traffic controller?
I believe that we make really good money. We have good benefits. It is a good job. And a lot of people want that job for their nieces, their nephews, because oftentimes I say I'm an air traffic controller, and the first thing I hear is, that's such a stressful job. And I'm thinking, okay, do they work here? How do they know that? Where are they hearing that? And that is a tool used to have you think that way, so that is your opinion of the job, and you won't desire to work there because of the stress. Well, the people who put that out there, the plan is working. The people who the thought process is in your mind that it's too stressful, so I can now get my nieces and nephews and brother-in-law and sister-in-law and my children in here to work this job. But with that value of worth, when you know your worth, you're able to get into a job that should be diverse and change things. You're able to stand up for yourself and what is right. You have a professional attitude about yourself that says, even though this is happening, I know what's right and I know what's wrong, and I'm going to call about accountability, and I'm going to call about a standard that my coworkers treat me in a respectful manner. And that is the value of knowing your worth.
And that is so true, because first of all, from what I'm hearing you say, you are taking leadership of yourself first. And once you take that leadership of yourself, you're able to, as I think Maya Angelou quoted, is you teach people how to treat you, something to that effect. And I may be paraphrasing her. But that is what you're doing, because you lead yourself first. And once you understand how leadership works and you're leading yourself, you can show others how you want to be treated. And people will use that. I call it how you're outwitting the devil. Napoleon Hill so eloquently wrote this book in 1938, and it was not released until 2011 because of the fear that he would have repercussions as well as his family. And it's amazing how he had this vision to foresee all of the issues and the challenges that we would be facing today, written in the late 1930s. So what you're saying is so true. When you value yourself and you love yourself, you can learn to love others. And it's just kind of amazing how someone would tell you that, oh, it's so stressful, like you said, and you've never even worked in the position. So how do you know how stressful it is? And that goes into what I would like to talk to you a little bit about next, is the drama. And this is what creates drama in the workplace, when people are saying things and they don't really know what they're talking about. So how does the drama, how do you deal with drama in the workplace? And I want to point out something in your book too, but I want you to elaborate on that first, the drama in the workplace and how you've dealt with some of it.
Yes, of course. And I want to also say, low self-esteem, when you don't value yourself, often those people take anything. They're led astray, and they're miserable, and they're frustrated people pleasers. So yes, point two, dealing with work drama. And how do you deal with the initiator of discord is what I call it. The initiator of discord, and that's something you may experience. So as an employee, how do you deal with that? And I call the initiator of discord is the person who gets an alliance with you against someone else. Now, the third person hasn't done a thing to you, but the initiator of discord wants to talk about that person and get you to dislike them as well. Or you are the third person where the initiator of discord gets someone else in alliance against you. So how do you deal with a person who doesn't like you at work and wants to make your life miserable? I said it before briefly. To know that everybody at your workplace isn't going to like you. There is nowhere in the Constitution that says you are to be friends with everybody at work.
Or anybody at work, for that matter.
That's right. Exactly. You're there to work, not to become friends.
And that is such the point. But what we can do with the initiator of discord, the person who doesn't like you, to overcome that workplace drama is to have a professional attitude. To say, you know what, I don't like you, you don't like me, but guess what? We can still work together. We can still get the job done. We keep our focus on being professionals in spite of our dislikes for each other. We are here to work.
Right. But I will say that it will work more efficiently when the drama is reduced to a bare minimum, if at all. Because, I mean, again... Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Kenan, you can't control anybody but yourself.
That's right.
You can't control if they're going to have drama, and you'd be surprised working with men how much drama there is at my job. But I can't control not one of those individuals, but I can control my response to it.
That's right.
I can, I'm going to tell you a story. One guy, and I know, Louise, you had something to say, but one guy told me one day, Arquila, if it doesn't have to do with air traffic control, I'll never speak to you again. He told me that in the department in front of, guess what I said?
What?
I said, you promise?
Good response, because it doesn't matter.
Right. Instead of going to a bad place, that's what my friends are for, to love on me, have a good time. I'm here to work with you. And when I work with him, guess what? I work. I put in the work. I am professional. I have a high standard in spite of our dislikes for each other. So,
right.
Louise, you had
and that's
an
okay.
From the book?
Yeah, I wanted to bring out something because this book is so amazingly written, like I said, and you bring out about speaking truth. And that is so vital in our lives, because a lot of us we walk around wearing masks every day, and we do not face our truth, and we do not accept our truth. So you had written on page 44 here, something that was so striking for me, being with you being an air traffic controller. You said, I couldn't believe it, because you had some problems with your earplugs, and this is where I'm coming from here. I couldn't believe it, but there it was, a small clot of tissue stuffed into my earpiece that caused me not to be able to hear the aircraft. I mean, when I read that, among all the other situations that you faced on this job, and I understand where you're coming from, because I faced many obstacles on my job, being a black female, working with many men as well, and most of them were Caucasian or Hispanic males, very few black males I worked with in the county of Los Angeles, and believe me, I faced racism. And our show is about real talk, real people, real purpose, because unless we start a dialogue and we talk about these things, there will be no resolve. And when I read this in your book, it really was troubling to me. And it was troubling because here we are in the 21st century, first of all, and you as an air traffic controller, someone had conspired to stick tissue paper in your earplug. And not only are you, they're taking out whatever they have, the vendetta against you, but you bring in other people. You have an aircraft of people that you are guiding through the pilot. Their safety is at risk here. Are these evil people thinking about what they're doing on this job?
And that is so true. That is the epitome of how life can happen, and then how do you deal with that? It was so much hate and dislike that it wasn't even against me. It was against the aircraft that I worked, and which is a sad testimony, but a true one. And I'm so glad that you said that I'm so true and open and transparent in the book to let people know that, hey, I understand, because this is what I've been through, and this is how bad it has gotten and how crazy it's gotten, but I am still there, and I think that the person who did it is still there. I don't have evidence because I wanted to do a DNA test, but they wouldn't let me, of course.
Right.
And
Of course
honestly,
not.
they wanted to sweep it under the rug, but I had to put that out there. This is my ministry, and how they handle me because I did that, I'm okay with it, but we need to be truthful. We need to have answers when our children go to work, so that they won't say, you know what, I'm quitting because that's just how they treat me. Because that's what they want. The agitators
yeah.
want
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I've known people that have left certain jobs because they don't like how their management speaks in certain tones, or they don't like how certain things are being ran, or they don't like the way this person sits at their cubicle, or whatever the case might be. There are some people that will leave their place of work for the I guess for some of the pettiest of reasons, versus doing what you're suggesting, is controlling how you respond to what they choose to do.
And you bring it out in this book, and I would hope that everyone, not just us as Black people, I would hope other
Everyone.
ethnicities would go out and buy this book and read it, because we have to come to some sort of understanding in America, the world for that matter. It's too many people are dying over the lack of knowledge and understanding and wisdom and discernment. And when you brought this out, it just weighed heavy on my heart. And with all the people that were shot to death in this church, and with everything else that's going on, and I'm saying, are these people really thinking? And you talked about is toxic, really. It's toxic to you, it's toxic to everyone. And it brought back a memory. I'll share a brief story with you. It brought back a memory of when I was working for the County of Los Angeles. I had taken an exam for a position of being an administrator in a particular department, over the entire department, where I would be managing over almost 40 people or maybe more. And a white gentleman had also vied for this job. However, this person did not pass the test, and I did. And lo and behold, I'm going to share with you how racism really works in the workplace. And this is a government entity, County of Los Angeles. This man was interviewed for the job. I was not called for an interview. However, this is how God works in mysterious ways. Someone in it who was an administrator knew that this person had been called in for an interview, and they were going to put him in this position. And this woman alerted me. I called and asked, why was I not interviewed? And of course, they didn't have an answer, because we already knew the answer. And I was ultimately, I did get the job, which I should have gotten. This man came to my face. I was in my late 20s. I might have been 27, 28, and shook his finger in my face and pointed directly at me like this and said, "Lady, I should have gotten that job. I went out and shot up a bunch of ducks this weekend." And
Wow.
That's how he let off his frustration,
right,
huh?
on me. And I just said to myself, I said, perhaps he wanted to shoot me instead of the ducks. But I did tell him, I said, well, you know what? I passed the test. And what makes you think you should have gotten it over me? And he turned around, turned red, and walked away.
Wow.
And I was very
Wow.
young then, in my late 20s. And that was just only a tip of the iceberg of some of the other things that I had gone through in this job that I retired from. Will be 10 years next year. So I can identify with what you're saying. And when you talk, you're going to talk further about bullies, and I can talk about a bully boss too. But, there is experiencing the fault finder, and then they come and find fault with you, because that's what happened to me. He found fault with me because he didn't pass the test, and I did.
Exactly. And just to conclude on that second point, the bully and overcoming the workplace drama, the initiative of discord, that is why I write, so that we can teach our youth and our young adults and anyone in the workplace. It may happen to you. Don't be so taken back and destroyed by it. Don't be destroyed by that harassment wake, because that's exactly what they want to happen, whoever is the initiator of the harassment, the harasser. So to be prepared, and be steadfast and unmovable, even in the face of it, to overcome it. So just a teachable lesson is what's in that book. And
it is very teachable.
The fault finder.
Yes.
Experiencing the fault finder at work. And this is the person, like you said so eloquently in your example, they mention and paint you in a bad light to bring about shame and humiliation and to steal your confidence. So how do you deal with the fault finder? And I've written 4 points I would like to discuss. That's
Yes.
number one. Give yourself permission to make mistakes. We are not perfect. We are not Jesus Christ, who was without error. You have room to make improvements. You do not know it all. I'm going to make mistakes, and just accept that. I am going to make mistakes, number one. The second point is to own your mistakes. Don't blame them on anyone else, and don't make excuses. I made a mistake. Now I have a chance to grow and improve. What can I do to make this better? This was a teachable moment. How can I make this better and not make this same mistake? Number three, the fault finder. Realize that the fault finder makes mistakes as well.
Yes,
They
right.
defer to you, but to cover up their shortcomings. Often that's what happens. And number four is to remember, whatever you do, do not let the fault finder's negative remarks take you into a bad place.
You're right. Those points are so true to help you in your job.
Yep.
Particularly, like you said, you're professional in your job, and I was always highly professional in my job. In fact, some of the I worked in an environment of healthcare in the health services department, and some of the doctors thought that I worked in private industry, in fact, because of my professionalism. And you should always work with excellence. And I've taught my kids that. Ken will tell you, anything that you do, I've always taught my kids to work with excellence. And you bring out another point I'd like to bring out is on page 64 and 65, where you talk about captivated thinking and how our thoughts really should be used with discernment. And you mentioned that in the book where you talk about discernment. And you were saying those days of me giving away the power over my thinking were coming to an end. So you had come out of the brainwashing mode. And we've all pretty much, most of us, or maybe all of us, have been there as black people, being brainwashed and thinking that it's our fault because of what's going on here, because many of us have been labeled lazy. And it's not that you're lazy. If you aren't able to get a job because of racism, why are you labeled lazy? It's not your fault. And I know that has happened on my job. The promotional opportunities are not always there because of racism. It has nothing to do with your work performance. And affirmative action was not brought into place, in spite of what many may think that it was brought because black people were too dumb to get these positions. And that is not the case. It was brought into place to bring about a level playing field because of racism, like exactly what happened to me on my job. And I know the air traffic controllers, I've read many articles, and I've not only read it, I've lived it, being 64 now, of that position being predominantly, or pretty much probably 90 to 95% Caucasian, male at that, because you brought about you being a female in that, and a black female at that, girl, that's a double whammy there.
Yes, God definitely had a purpose, an ancient purpose for me becoming an air traffic controller, because he knew I would call on him for help. He would give me the answer, and I would be able to keep my righteous mind at my facility.
And that's good. And you know, we've talked about how you know your worth and value yourself, the fault finders, and we need to talk about the intrusion in the workplace, because I know I've dealt with that one, and that's why I think I like this book so much, because everything you brought out, even though you were in a different capacity, you're in the air traffic control, I'm in the healthcare industry, not in direct healthcare, but indirect, being in management, information system, leadership management, and so forth. And people can be very intrusive in your life. And they
nosy
get
people
angry at you because you don't expose your personal business on work, and people have gotten fired because of that, exposing. Because when you expose, I know a friend of mine who worked for a huge company, IBM for that matter, and came to the conclusion that she probably lost her job because of nosiness and exposing, because of people feeling she had too much. And I had a white boss to shake his finger. He was my wasn't my primary boss, my secondary. When I was asking for a raise because a promotion, they had promoted someone much less qualified, do nothing pretty much, didn't have come to work over me. And he shook his finger, another one pretty much shook his finger in my face and told me, "You make enough money." Now,
Wow.
who let you to decide how much money, really, to make that rule for me that I made enough money? So when you talk about your people being intrusive, I mean, that's amazing. And what we're going to do, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back because we have a few other points to talk about to help people to understand how to facilitate themselves with excellence and without having an attitude and so forth, because you can go and work in the workplace and not quit your job because of what somebody else thinks. Because I had that offered to me too from a psychologist to quit my job after 18 years. And I said, no, the boss should quit, not me, because he created the problem. I didn't. So with that being said, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk some more about intrusiveness on the job. And also we're going to talk about accountability, workplace accountability. And we're going to wrap it up with the workplace bully and some final thoughts. So let's take a break.
This edition of Aim to Purpose, the radio show, is brought to you by L. Hicks Consulting Services. When you want the best in business coaching, life coaching, or perhaps your organization, business, or company is in need of a dynamic speaker for an upcoming workshop or seminar, contact Louise Hicks for L. Hicks Consulting Services at 1-562-310-1495. From anywhere around the world, that's 1-562-310-1495. For more information about Louise Hicks and her consulting services, visit her website at www.louisehicks.biz. Again, that's www.louisehicks.biz. Or call 1-562-310-1495. L. Hicks Consulting Services, where professionalism is top priority.
Okay, we are back again. I'm your host, Louise Hicks of Aim to Purpose, the radio show, along with my co-host, Kennon Wesley Mason. And today we are talking with author, and she's also a speaker and a business coach, Arquila Todd. And our conversation today is diversity in the workplace, embracing cultural differences. And before we went on the break, we were talking about intrusion on the job and how this can create conflict. And I want to say this quickly. Management plays a major role in the workplace, and I believe your workplace is only as good as your leadership.
That's right.
And if you don't have great leadership, that's going to trickle down.
And it always does.
Yes, it's going to trickle down. So great leadership is vital in treating people the way you want to be treated, with respect. So, Arquila, let's talk about intrusion. How do you deal with intrusion and intrusive people that want to be nosy and just know all of your business, which can create workplace conflict?
Excellent question. Excellent question. The intrusive one is the individual who asks intrusive questions and, like you said, usually feels entitled to know your business, and usually doesn't like you in the first place, and like Kennon said, just wants to be nosy. So I've brought up 3 ways to deal with the intrusive person if you're dealing with that at work. First, put a smile on your face and ask, why do you want to know that?
Love it.
And with a smile, with kindness. So why do you ask? Number 2, you can say to the intrusive person, I understand that you want to know how long it took to get my my hair braided, but I have a question for you, and I'll answer your question if you answer this for me. Are those your real boobs? Is your house in foreclosure?
Right. Right.
Because the intrusive person usually doesn't understand the state they put a person in with their intrusiveness.
Yes.
Until
Right.
they experience it themselves.
Right. How's your kids' grades in school?
Right. Are you going through a foreclosure? Do you get
Yes.
Botox every week?
Oh,
Well,
yes.
that's been, the same.
How's your
intrusive-
marriage, huh? Is your marriage
Right.
going okay?
How's those divorce proceedings going?
Exactly.
Turn the tables.
Exactly. And finally, you can just simply say, with a smile, with kindness, I would prefer not to answer that question. Thank you, though. But I prefer not to answer.
Because
And-
it is
and-
your
That's right.
prerogative. It is your prerogative. So it's gratitude of being able to respond with a smile on your face without an attitude. And you know what? That's going to disappoint them.
And you can do this with management as well. This doesn't have to be limited to just your
Yes.
coworkers.
Definitely.
Exactly. That's a very
Definitely.
good
Being
point.
in management for over 25 years and having my own business, consulting business, definitely. There are certain things that even managers are not allowed to ask you. And knowing the policies and procedures of your company is vital.
Right.
And many people fail to do that. And I know you talked about that in your book, setting boundaries for yourself. And many people don't do that because they don't know how. So explain how you can set boundaries at the job. I know you've just talked about that by telling people the way you just handle it, but I know you talk about some other things on how to, I think it goes into that accountability aspect and how you make people accountable through setting boundaries for yourself. And
yes, workplace accountability, number 5, the 5th point. Maybe you have experienced unfair treatment and injustice, even from your manager, because those people are human, and sometimes they haven't been checked, and I say that they haven't been rebuked. So going back to knowing your worth and standing strong for yourself is what you've got to do.
Right.
A workplace accountability, because if you allow someone to treat you badly, that just continues to fester.
Oh, of course.
To hold those in charge accountable, it takes knowing the letter of the law, the policy and procedure that sets in place fairness, equitable treatment, the same standard. Often your side of the story may not have been considered. We've got to speak up, because a reasonable person and due process would get both sides of the story before issuing corrective actions. It is vital to know your workplace policy, because it may take reading, it may be a big book, you may have to eat it page by page, take
That's
3 pages
right.
a day. But if you don't hold even management accountable, then that opposition just allows unrighteous treatment to continue.
Of course.
And you hit
Most
the
pe-
nail on the head.
Most people in the workplace never read their policies and procedures booklets or pamphlets.
Yeah, a memorandum
So-
of understanding. A
That's
lot
right.
of them don't even know what that is.
Right. They're just happy to have a job for the most part, and they never read these things. So when something comes up to where something might go into discrimination suits, if it happens to go to attorneys and whatnot, most employees will never have a leg to stand on because they don't understand their policies and procedures of their own workplace.
And like you said, they don't know the letter of the law.
Letter of the law.
And that's so important. You got to know when you go to work for these firms, first of all, you need to know what you're signing when you sign in, because they have at-will employment. And they can fire you some of these companies can fire you for anything just because they don't like you or your color of your skin, anything. And you need to know the letter of the law. And I'll share another quick story for you that's going to lead to us about this bullying on my job. I always took it upon myself, and you talk about this in your book. Take up on yourself to learn and become responsible for you, because nobody else will. And document things. Learn how to write. That's what school is all about. Primary, secondary education. You should learn how to write. You should learn how to read, construct sentences. And by me doing this and knowing this and being taught early on in life with good parenting, and that is so vital. You got to have good parenting. Parents, parent your children, learn. I had to go in pro per to fight my employer, Los Angeles County, regarding some issues that stem from nothing but racism, because I've always done my job with excellence. I really implemented the first comprehensive training program in the county of Los Angeles, where other departments were coming for my training and asking my trainees to train them, because of the excellence and what I had done. However, they probably won't give me credit for it, but that's okay. I know, and the people that were there know. And I had to go in pro per and act as an attorney on my own to fight a case. And guess what? It took me 7 years. But last July the 2nd, 2014, I won this case against my employer on my own. And that's why it's so important to know the letter of the law and to understand the law. And you're not able to practice the law for someone else, but you can practice it for yourself.
That's right.
But it all comes back to not being brainwashed.
And doing your own due diligence with whatever company that you're choosing to work for. Do some homework. Do your background checks.
Absolutely.
Know who you're working for. Know the CEO. Know the CFO if you can. Know whoever it is that's running this company that you're choosing to work for, and know what their procedures are. Is it going to be the right fit for you? Are you going to be comfortable working there?
And make them accountable, like you said, Arquila. And I like this. I want you to elaborate a little bit on making them accountable, because sometimes people are so quick, and you talk about this too in your book. They're so quick to say you're using the race card. And I get so tired of hearing people say that. You don't have to use the race card. Racism is very prevalent here in the United States of America.
Yep.
So for someone to tell me that, it really is frustrating to me when I hear that, using the race card. Because it's you hold management, you hold people accountable by you being intelligent enough to understand the letter of the law, and that's how you do it. So tell us a little bit about you, because I know you've dealt with a lot of this in your job, being in air traffic, because you talk about these situations in your book, how you held them accountable.
One thing I would do is just give them an example of the difference in treatment. I would say, you allow this person to check out and you tell me to go and babysit them. But then a different person who looks like me has to be perfect before they are checked out, and that's certified on a position, an air traffic control position. And I would just say, let the same treatment happen. Give them the chance to certify and let me babysit them. See, I guess they never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
But I would just put them and show the difference of treatment. And you guys said it so well, because our ignorance of the letter of the law allows bad treatment to continue.
That's right.
And you're treated any kind of way. So to know it, to use examples of, okay, so different standards. I was docked for 8 hours for messing up. So I said, well, you stopped me for 8 hours when other people do the same thing. Are they getting that same punishment?
Right.
And you're so
held
right.
them to the standard that they set. So by knowing the job, knowing the policy, yes, it takes time to read it, but it's worth it. That knowledge establishes peace for me, and it establishes peace for the employee.
Yes, it does. It really does establish that peace, because you can go home at night and you can sleep knowing they're hating on you, and that's okay. Because you're not going to steal or kill my dream. And you talk about that and that is biblical, actually, to not let anyone steal or kill your dream. And these evil, unrighteous people on these jobs will. And if you don't go and read, and I know there was a saying, and it's funny, but it's not funny, that if you don't want a black person to know something, put it in a book, because we have been, said to not read. And I mean, you can't characterize all black people just because some black people don't read, because there are a lot of black people that read. I know I love to read, and I read. And we need to read more, because it's important. That's how you learn.
And that's how you stand strong too, because if you know the letter of the law, they're less likely to continue to use that tool. It doesn't work then. When you have that knowledge, that system they wanted to use, it doesn't work on you because you're knowledgeable.
Perfect. And with the last 4 minutes that we have left, let's go into number 6, the workplace bully.
Bully, yes.
Yes, and you may experience a workplace bully. So what are you going to do? That bully wants to intimidate you or force you to do as the bully desires, like the bully desires. You, as an employee, have got to stand up for yourself. And you were mentioned, Louise, reading. I love the Bible. I love the passages in there. There's a God servant, Nehemiah, who was able to say, what you're doing is not right. That was the strength of speaking up for himself, that he leads an example for us to be strong enough to say that is not right. And my second point in dealing with the workplace bully and being prepared for that is simply to ask God. I encourage everyone to develop a relationship with the Heavenly Father who has answers to everything. My book is a testament of God's answers in my life and why I am an air traffic controller and living in peace 24 years later. There may be chaos all around me. Drama over here, stress over there, madness over there, mayhem, chaos all around me. But my relationship with the Heavenly Father, my spirit is so peaceful. I walk in there radiating the peace of God. And I want everyone to have that, regardless of the mayhem going on all around you. That is why I wrote the book, so you can tap into your own personal peace.
And that is so true, because it's so important for you to live in joy, peace, and prosperity. And you are living yours. I can tell by the smile on your face on the picture that we're looking at now, which you're holding up your other book, because you've written 3. My Testimony, which is this one here, which is a great book. That's the one that you have on the picture. And then you've written another book called Date Smart, which is to help others to better understand how to facilitate themselves through dating from a spiritual perspective, and you will get better results with your dating. And so, Arquila, we have about 1 minute or so left. So give us a final thought and how people can get in touch with you. If they need any business coaching. We know you're in Texas, but that doesn't stop you from traveling all over the world, right?
That is so true, and thank you for mentioning that part. Don't want to leave and they don't know how to get in touch with me.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes. My email address is golden5002@aol.com. Again, golden, just the word golden, 5002@aol.com. The first 15 people who would like the book, The Brainwashing of Black America, How God Helped Me Overcome, I get an email, can expect shipping for free. The book is $15, and I will ship it for free and include the free workbook that really teaches application of the principles in the book. Because it's one thing to read it, it's another thing to apply it to your life.
That's right.
So that you experience heaven on earth that was intended for us from the beginning. And I can't thank you both enough. I can't thank you enough for letting me share.
Absolutely.
And
we want to thank you, too, for being our special guest today on Aim to Purpose, the radio show, Arquila A. Todd.
Yes, we really do thank you, and I look forward to seeing you when I come back to Texas. Hopefully, I might be there around the holidays. If not, I will see you when I come back, because I went twice this year. Yeah, twice this year. So hopefully I'll get back. But with that being said, we do thank you, and your closing comment, Arquila, real quickly.
My closing comment is, in all things, remain professional and watch how you respond instead of reacting. Responding is with thought. Reacting is without thought.
That's right.
Think
Great.
about your actions.
Great.
That's right.
Great.
There is a difference between response and reaction.
Yes, it is. And
yeah, go ahead. No,
with
go
that
ahead.
being said, go if you have something else to say quick.
No.
With that being said, thank you again, Arquila. Thank all of our guests from around the world for joining us on Aim to Purpose, the radio show today. And remember, until next week, your power lies within you. Let it loose.
Until next week.